taking direct action as a community around environmental initiatives, and certainly not rallying around a very specific area, which was sort of a priority from several years ago when we convened around the broader topic to specifically answer the question, what will it take to get a community solar garden in the east side that we can feel directly connected to, knowing that that's a part of a bigger puzzle of what we need to do for the environment in general. To that end, other questions were asked in terms of how can a community garden be really a community garden, knowing that from a policy standpoint, people can subscribe from a broad geographical range to a specific community solar garden array. And people thought there could be an advantage of a sense of local ownership or connectivity to a true community garden in both senses of the word, and knowing that there could be an educational component with that proximity and local energy and sense of ownership. Another question that was called upon in that conversation was to make sure that not only there be geographic access and sense of ownership, but that impediments for anyone in the community to participate, be it income-based or whatever, that we should think about that and address those too, to make sure that anything that advances environment and community is something that anyone can participate in. And so to that end, we do have a group of folks who will be our guests tonight that will deal with that. But before I introduce them and yield them to the floor, I'll just go through a few housekeeping items. Please mute your devices. We will be recording today's meeting for the benefit of those who are unable to attend tonight. A link to the recording will be posted on my webpage on the city's website. After our speakers finish their presentations, we will open it up for questions. You may type your questions into the chat or use the raised hand icon to signal that you want to ask an audible question. Since those who are joining by phone will not have those options to signal questions, we will periodically ask if anyone joining by phone would like to speak or ask a question. We'll go over this information again after the presentation for anyone joining late. And so I've introduced the topic and why we're here. Now I will give the floor to the Executive Director of Minneapolis Climate Action. And Kyle, you have the floor, and if you could introduce yourself and your team.
Absolutely. So, excuse me, my name is Kyle Samajima, and I live in the Northrop neighborhood of South Minneapolis. And I am the Executive Director of Minneapolis Climate Action, which is a nonprofit focused on equitable and inclusive climate organizing in the city of Minneapolis. And we'll talk a little bit more later about, some of our work besides community solar. Of course, that will be the main focus. And I will just let Jeff and Daniela and Tatiana and Zainab quickly introduce themselves. And Jeff, why don't you go next, and then you can pick the next person.
Thanks. Yeah, so it's Jeff Stites. I'm on the board of MCA and have been working on community solar for 4 or 5 years. We've been working on all aspects, site selection, financing, outreach, and just process. So it's very exciting that we have now 2 sites that are coming online this year. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great year for solar. So Daniela, do you want to go?
Sure, I'll go. Hi, my name is Daniela. I am in the board of MCA as well. And I am very excited to be a part of Minneapolis Climate Action, as well as this panel, or not panel, I'm sorry, but this conversation to raise awareness or just to build a team, a like-minded team that cares about the environment and the well-being of future generations and ways that we can be innovative. So I'm here to learn from you and also to work with MCA and do outreach and fundraising and everything for our program. Zainab, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi, I'm Zainab. I'm one of the interns for MCA. I just started, so I just get the privilege of learning from all the board members and taking everything in. Tatiana, if you want to go next.
Hi, my name is Tatiana. I'm a board member for MCA. I'm excited to be here for this community solar garden presentation and answer y'all's folks about what we're trying to do for the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone. And welcome to the community members that are here. So glad you're here. And thank you to Councilmember Reich for holding this community forum. And thank you to Lisa for your amazing assistance. You are just one of the most organized and effective people that I know. I'm always impressed with your work. And I know Ryan is here, Councilmember Reich's, I think, upcoming assistant. And I think, yeah, that's it. And like Council Member Reich said, you can put questions in the chat at any time, and we will get to those after. If you want to put your name and email in the chat at any point, whether it's for questions or to follow up with us, or so that we can follow up with you, please do that. We'll have a way later to also sign up for information about our community solar garden. And so with that, I will jump into the presentation. And nope, that's not what I wanted. Are you seeing the whiteboard or the community solar thing?
I'm not seeing anything.
That's weird. Hold on a second. I have two monitors and sometimes there. Now?
Yes.
Yay. I like when technology works the way I expect it to. No, not you. No, I'm just trying to, sorry, go away. Sorry, I'm trying to see. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and do this again. Sorry, I was trying to see your faces and my presentation. Just give me 1 second. There we go. There. All good?
Looks great.
Perfect. Okay. So again, welcome to our Community Solar 101 event this evening. We are so glad you are here. And right off the bat, we'll just emphasize that community solar is a cleaner, cheaper, better energy for Minneapolis, and we'll go into all the details of why that is so and what it is, and why we have chosen community solar as one of our main focuses of our organization. So just a little bit about Minneapolis Climate Action. As I said, we're a nonprofit focused on climate action in our city. All of our work is done in a foundation of equity and environmental justice. And right now our three main focus areas are renewable energy, with our priority focus right now on our community solar gardens with our Emerge Second Chance solar garden. And we're also working on a community solar garden at North High School that we're very excited about. We're a member of the Just Solar Coalition, which is a local coalition of organizations that are supporting a just transition to a green economy that includes all and helps close the employment gap, improves the natural world, and creates a new story about the community the community's role in the energy system. So we're really proud of the work that we're doing with that partnership. And we're also the outreach and subscription management partner for the Second Chance Community Solar Garden in Ward 1, which is projected to launch in early summer 2021. We also work with Zero Waste at the intersection of waste and consumption, climate change, and environmental justice, and have various initiatives around that. And we also work with neighborhood organizing through Minneapolis Green Teams, which are quarterly meetings of the environment and green team committees from around the city. And why do we need renewable energy? I mean, climate change is in the news all the time, and there's so much information out there, but it's just, even I need to review, why am I doing this work? And I often show pictures of my children when I do this work, because that's where my heart is. Besides my love for this planet, it is in creating a livable future for my children. Climate change, our planet is warming due to greenhouse gas emissions from the use of fossil fuels, along with agriculture and land use change and other sources of greenhouse gas emissions. Just a little note, Minneapolis pledges to reduce citywide greenhouse gas emissions by 30% by 2025. Urgency. We have about 10 years to dramatically reduce greenhouse gas emissions to prevent some of the most catastrophic impacts. Some are already built in. We have to accept that and do our best to reduce those impacts. And speaking of impacts, our climate crisis is having impacts right here in Minnesota. And for example, winters in Minnesota are warming 13 times faster than summers. Cold-loving animals are moving north. Last year, I was at a Minnesota House legislative session on climate impacts that was done by the University of Minnesota. And when they mentioned that loons and the boundary waters would be headed north to Canada, there were just, and basically gone from Minnesota, at a certain point, there were just gasps in the room. And the intersectionality, as we see with COVID, and the disparate impacts and how it's connected to all these other systems, you know, we're looking at an extractive economy, systemic racism, and disparate impacts of climate change that really require, I think, morally and ethically, everything that we can do to shift that narrative and acknowledge that story. So what is community solar? So it is a community solar project, is a solar power array whose electricity is shared by more than one property. So members of a community who can't or don't want to install their own solar panels can buy a share in a more cost-efficient shared solar array nearby and receive bill credits for their share of energy sent to the grid. Let's see. And we'll be going into more detail about, you know, again, how the gardens work, et cetera. And so why is community solar better? And when we say better, everything that we do to reduce our carbon footprint and use renewable energy is good, and even great. But there are aspects of community solar that really make it stand out in this goal that we have to democratize renewable energy and truly make it accessible to everyone. And you'll hear a little bit more about that as well. So right off the bat, it's cleaner. You know, of course, getting your electricity from the sun dramatically reduces your carbon footprint. The energy production itself emits no CO2, cuts air pollution, and creates local green jobs, which is very evident with this project here in Ward 1. It's cheaper. The cost of solar electricity has dropped by 90% over the last 10 years, and it's cheaper today than coal or natural gas-based electricity, which means it's not just better for the environment, it's better for you and your pocketbook, period. And like I mentioned earlier, it's more equitable and provides local jobs. We'll be talking about our partners in this project later on. And I think one of the most exciting and powerful things about community solar is that it truly is If the program is designed with this in mind, it truly is accessible. You know, it's available to all, not just those who can afford their own solar panels. It's great for renters. So whether you rent or own your own home, you can participate in a community solar garden. And residents can participate in our garden, regardless of income or credit score, which unfortunately is not the case either for all community solar gardens. And it's not the case for a lot of these energy efficiency programs that are out there that then leave people who spend the most on their electric bill getting the least amount of access to those energy efficiency programs, which I know Minneapolis is looking to change, and so are we. So we appreciate the work Minneapolis is doing on inclusive financing. How does it work? I know there's a lot of text up there, but just bear with me. I'll just quickly go through, so developers find a site. It took a long time to find this Emerge site, and then they had to replace their roof. So, I mean, it really takes time to get a good site set, and then you get your financiers set. Construction has to happen. That happened this winter. The panels are up there on top of the Emerge Second Chance recycling facility. Then you connect to the grid. That is what we are in the midst of right now, the application process with Xcel Energy. And then the power flows to the grid. And subscriber shares, which again, we'll explain more about, are pay up front or pay as you go. And these subscriptions are share that you buy in this community solar garden, help pay for maintenance, operation, and subscription management. And subscribers receive monthly credits that typically reduce their utility bills. And again, we'll have more info about that. And the amount of credit you receive does depend if you have a pay up front or pay as you go share. And most community solar projects save residents anywhere from an average of a few percent to 15% or more off of their energy bill. And so I have to drink some water. Who can join the Second Chance Community Solar Garden? If you pay an Xcel electric bill and you live in Hennepin County or a county that borders Hennepin County, you can join the Community Solar Garden. So this means that if you even can, have a house, maybe the roof is not the right pitch for solar panels, or if you rent, et cetera. So this really opens it up to so many more people. And I'll get a little bit more into more of the energy democracy piece of it later. So we're really excited to announce our first community solar garden, which is this Second Chance garden. And again, we so appreciate all the help we've gotten from city leaders and community members, board members for this really exciting option for Minneapolis residents. And so this partnership came together to provide clean, inexpensive energy to Minneapolis while simultaneously supporting employment opportunities for underserved communities. And these are our partners in the project, and we'll go into them in a little bit more detail. So Emerge Second Chance Recycling is where the array is. We'll have a picture of that. Our developer was Renewable Energy Partners. Installer was S3 Solar Service Solutions. That's JT with his hands out in that picture. He's one of the CEOs of S3, and US Bank was one of the financiers. And here is a picture of the Second Chance Recycling Facility at 1179 15th Avenue Southeast. And Emerge is a social enterprise that provides employment for formerly incarcerated residents, helping them overcome barriers to re-entering the workforce. And that is where all the mattresses in Minneapolis go to be recycled. So really keeping them out of landfills and creating, new materials. So it's really an exciting option for us to be partnering with such an environmentally focused and socially and racially justice focused organization. And we can't tell you how exciting it is to see pictures of the actual panels on the roof, because this has been so long in the making. So I already mentioned Emerge a little bit. Renewable Energy Partners. Jamez Staples founded Renewable Energy Partners in 2014. He's a lifelong North Minneapolis resident. REP is a certified minority business enterprise. And they're also leading an effort to develop a state-of-the-art multi-purpose training facility on the north side, which is super exciting so that people in Minneapolis can get job training without having to go far outside the city. It's on a public transportation line. You know, we're just all crossing our fingers, you know, back to getting on public transportation in a more regular fashion soon. But Jamez is also our partner on the North High School Garden as well. And next is S3 Solar Service Solutions. This was the team that put the panels on the roof at Emerge. And it really was important to us to seek out minority business enterprises to close that employment gap and really show that green jobs are available, well-paying jobs right here in the city of Minneapolis. And another one of our outreach partners on getting subscribers is MN Renewable Now. Christelle Porter is the executive director. She used to be the Cleveland Neighborhood Association director and now runs a nonprofit focused on getting to 100% renewables. And she's one of our partners in lots of other things around climate. Oops. And so this will get us into a little bit of the nitty gritty of how our site works. This garden will have 182 kilowatt DC power of solar total generation. Emerge also really will benefit from this partnership, again, which is really important to us. This is another one of those ways where we're bringing the benefits of renewable energy directly to the community. And we're also creating energy independence and energy security, and that the more distributed our energy is, the less we're susceptible to, you know, blackouts and energy disruption. And again, I'll just reiterate the importance of really democratizing the renewable energy transition. I believe we will have failed if all the renewable energy benefits end up in the hands of large for-profit companies. We really think that this is our chance to make energy local and really familiarize people with where does my energy come from? Just like people are really getting into where does my food come from? We want energy to be right there along with where our food comes from. So Emerge will get 18 kilowatts of solar electricity at no cost, other than the annual maintenance and admin fee of 30 cents per kilowatt hour. And they'll also have 35 shares under our pay-as-you-go program that they can offer to employees and other community members. And there are two ways that people can get a share in the community solar garden: pay up front and pay as you go. So the pay up front is a $950 per kilowatt share. This is down from, let's see, $1,600 about 5 years ago. Is that right, Jeff? He can pop in and correct me.
Right. Yeah, it's really come down in price quite a bit with the improved technology.
Right. I mean, we were also able to get more solar panels on the roof than we were even 2 years ago, because the panels have shrunk and gotten more efficient at the same time, which is really, really wonderful. So the pay upfront subscribers pay that $950 one time, and they get an average net bill credit over the life of the 25-year contract of about $100 per year. So it's a pretty good return on investment for that $950. And people can get up to 120% of their electricity usage, which there are ways, you know, we can help people find out what that is and how many shares they can get. Pay-as-you-go subscriptions are really the equity tool. These have a zero upfront cost, and we don't check credit score or income level. We probably, you know, we will be, for some of the program, doing just kind of, you know, means testing in the sense of, you know, we really want to make sure it goes to that those subscriptions go to people who really can't afford to buy a pay-as-you-go share. I mean, a pay upfront share. They'll get a little bit smaller bill credit, but still with a monthly average, they will still come out ahead on their electric bill with a small credit each month. The subscription and credit move with you if you change your residence, as long as you still have an Xcel Energy bill and move to either within Hennepin County or a county that borders the community solar garden. And subscribers have the option to sell their subscriptions to another qualifying subscriber or to the developer at any time based on a formula over the 25-year life of the community solar garden contract with Xcel Energy. Anything I missed in that part, Jeff, that you want to add?
No, that's pretty much the program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can drop a link to so right now we are creating our waiting list, and we're getting, so this is no commitment from anyone right now. I mean, but really we're getting people's contact information, how many shares they're interested in, what kind of share, and also just, you can use this form just to get questions answered. And after you sign up, we will be in touch with, you know, getting your confirmation, payment methods, due date, and a subscriber contract. And questions for our solar panel. I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was pretty clever when I figured that out, like our solar panel. Anyway, that is all for the presentation. I will stop sharing and we can go into questions. Or if there's, and first let me ask if any of if Councilmember Reich or any of the MCA people have anything to add about the project.
Just that was a superb overview, and I think people can see how different community values can be layered over each other. The workforce, the different things in terms of transitional for people who are just getting into the workforce, the educational element, you know, the fact that we can take these opportunities to layer in a project. So obviously there's an inherent value to clean energy production, but to look for opportunities that go beyond that, that can then hopefully spur what are great projects that seem unique now become normalized. It's that sort of expansive value capture, if you will, that goes beyond the inherent value, as great as it is. And I think your organization really brings that together, particularly with the partners. I know Jamez very well, that you have brought together that really, really drive it home. And I think that's the great segue, is we really want to drive it home. We want this to be an outreach opportunity to our community. Your program now is going to give access to people who otherwise would not have access. And I think that's a strong message for us as neighbors to go neighbor to neighbor and get that message out and do that recruitment. Because I think that'll just be super, super meaningful if we can do a geographic community effort that is inclusive and inviting. But that has to happen from us. You know, we've got the opportunities, we've got the roof, we got the partners, we've got the resources, we've got the panels. I think our proposition moving forward is how, as we as neighbors, and I'm saying, talking to my neighbors, as Northeasters, how will we reach out and engage and make sure that it really actually happens at that human level. We did it with cooperatives, both in terms of the business cooperatives and then the investment cooperative. All of that didn't happen unless we went out, invited our neighbors, got them interested in a way that got them involved. So I love that pivot. So thank you, Kyle.
Absolutely. Anybody else from MCA? You guys good? Maybe just be here for questions.
I will say that for the North High project, you know, one of the real focuses there will be outreach to the community, and in particular to students at North High. We're working, and Kyle, I believe you just were in contact with some folks there about working with students and maybe some faculty on a curriculum aspect. Just again, trying to broaden the scope of the project beyond just putting solar panels on a roof. From employment opportunities to education to, again, as you say, democratization of energy, which I love. I mean, yeah, I think everybody should be their own clean power plant, really, which is really what this is. I mean, you have a tiny little power plant that's just down the road. And I've always loved that. So we're really excited about both of these projects. We're envisioning some additional projects around the city, hopefully over the near term. I mean, there's a lot of energy and activity for community solar. So it'll be an exciting 2021. But for purposes of Northeast, we've really worked hard over the last 5 years to make every possible mistake that you could make developing a community solar program. So, and that was kind of we knew that was going to happen. It was a new program. It's based on a relatively new statute. And so one of our goals is to be an information resource to organizations that are interested in doing it themselves or doing it in partnership. And, we'd be very happy to slide into any of those roles with these organizations. So.
Well, and I'll just say on that note, I think in the East Side, I think there's a mutuality here, a symbiosis. We're really great at the Forerunner pilot from which others can learn as well. We back in the early 2000s, we had the first solar townhome project that had city and community involvement, which became a blueprint for Green Homes North. It's great that North is looking at getting curriculum with some soon to be forthcoming panels. Edison's already had those for about 4 or 5 years now and have incorporated in its curriculum as part of its Green Campus initiative. And I would say with this Emerge project, our next challenge is to show that you can make a community solar garden actually community. That's our challenge. Hopefully we can live up to it. And yes, when you learn by doing, it's not as elegant as a fully fleshed out program, but we don't necessarily need to do elegant here on the East Side. We just need to do it. So we appreciate the partnership.
Yeah. And I want to add to that community piece you mentioned, that we want to hear ideas from, Ward 1 neighbors about how could this be even more knit into the fabric of, Ward 1 and the East Side? What are ways to bring art into this, curriculum, use your imagination. And so just putting that out there, that is definitely a goal. And someone asked about the presentation, and yes, I can share the presentation. I'll put a copy to the presentation in the chat. But does anybody have questions?
Well, I do. I'm very interested in investing in solar, and I guess the question is that, because Kevin, you're suggesting that this is a good option. I'm assuming that this has been a vetted solar project, so it's legit. This is something that we can trust. That's my question.
I will certainly vouch for this organization. They've been in the trenches of this emerging opportunity, both in terms of it being developed and being implemented. And so I can't think of a group that's more in this field with the knowledge base that it takes to be in this field in a meaningful way, which they have, and super grounded in values that are community values, community-driven values. That combination, I've seen a lot of people with great expertise in one or the two areas, but never such a great congruence as this group has provided.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was also wondering too, was there going to be some kind of initiative on the new Northeast maintenance site for solar panels there as well?
Absolutely. Those panels now are eminent, and that's great. It was a long time in the coming, something we talked about as a group, as a community a long time ago, and
Yep.
certainly it was something I insisted on when that building was built. Of course,
Absolutely.
these things take time. What I see as an opportunity to really get involved with this particular opportunity, with this particular group as a community, and really hit the ground running for every other opportunity that comes down the pipe. I'm still committed to having a signature. We've had multiple businesses throughout the east side that have become part of the solar contributors, from small coffee shops to breweries to you name it, old art studio spaces. But I think there's a value in having a major, highly visible private sector, because we've now got nonprofit, we've got public. It'd be nice to have a very visible private sector presence in this conversation, just because of what it will do. And I know you and others, when we first started talking about this some years ago, you put this on a Target in the quarry, everyone's going to know about it. I mean, it's just boom. And so, or Home Depot, et cetera. And it's not so much that it's that particular private company, it's that location and the visibility. And so I'm still in the works there, but if we can really start to gear up our capacity, we can really do what we say we can do as a community outreach arm of this effort with this project. We'll be geared seamlessly into the other opportunities to do similar outreach for the panels, however they're construed once they're installed at the public service facility and beyond. I mean, I don't think this is a one-off here in the east side. I'm not trying to do a one-off ribbon cutting. I want a movement.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hear, hear. And I appreciate your question, Dean, about trust and legitimacy and vetting. I would ask those same questions.
Thank you.
I have a question real quick. For the pay-as-you-go option, so there's no upfront cost. Is there a like monthly cost?
So the way it works is, as the panels generate electricity, you receive a portion of the value of that electricity back, because again, you are in effect a small power plant. So you'll actually see a net credit to your bill when the panels are running. So a lot in the summertime, a lot less in the wintertime when there's snow cover or poor light. But overall, we've calculated based on the internal rate that we receive from Excel and the operations and maintenance costs, that it's about $25 per year of net benefit per kilowatt. And again, an average house, if you're interested in doing 100% renewable for your house or apartment, the average house might be 8 kilowatts of electricity. An apartment might be significantly less, depending on if you have what your electricity use is, if you have air conditioning, for example.
Okay, thank you.
Did that make sense, Alex? Because I know.
Yeah. So the upfront cost is more that you're investing in the facility, so you get a bigger credit back on the bill, basically, is how I'm understanding this.
Yeah, so for the prepay, you are buying all of the generation, and you're essentially, you are the funder for that group of panels.
Okay.
So you're the financing, and you're getting all of the benefit of being the financier for that, because again, US Bank is our finance partner for these arrays. But for the prepay folks, use it. So this is a private financing, and the rate of return, again, is about $100 a year. And again, this is a 25-year contract. So you're essentially getting a locked rate of over 25 years with an annual escalator, a small annual escalator. So over time, that benefit will increase. So at the end, you'll have a substantially higher annual benefit.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question, if you don't mind, for Mr. Ritchie.
Go right ahead, Guillermo.
All right, thank you so much. My name is Germa, and I'm from Oromo community of Minnesota here in St. Paul and Minneapolis area. And I know city of Minneapolis doing a great job on renewable energy, and you guys are a good example. And what kind of program has been successfully done by the city and need to be continued? And what other thing that has been failed and need the community effort to move forward? This is a great job. This is about, saving generation to me. And it is, we are empowering our children to have a clean and sustainable, environment, especially for a person like Zainab, and I think the other person that I've seen is Austin. Maybe these people are so young, they are witnessing what we are doing today, and maybe they're gonna question us. Our kids will ask us, what you have done to save this environment for the next generations to come. You destroyed the environment. They can blame us. They can blame you and me. So what others need to do as a community, as an individual, it's not about a benefit that we get today for tomorrow. Are we really preparing what the city has been doing? Like I said, what has been failed and what has been successful, and what the community need to do to make this journey be, go farther. Thank you.
Well, in terms of that being a sort of a city-centric question, I would say that one of the things that would be a shortcoming, if not a failure, is the speed by which we've made our adjustments. I think we're really changing gears hard policy-wise, but we're finding that it's one thing to lay out a real bold objective through policy or staff direction at the city level, but given that we don't have control of every element, we now have to do double time to bring in our partners in energy production and the policies that we don't completely govern. We didn't legislate solar community gardens. We're trying to work within that legislative framework. However, I would say that we still had to adjust cost benefit analysis on project by project basis with our own properties. I mean, if we want to ask the private sector to do certain things, we should be very prepared to demonstrate how we did them, both in a physical but also in a monetary way. And so I think part of our shortcoming has been maybe speed. The other thing, but the shift is why these projects like this are shifting into and are the basis for where we need to go, particularly for the people who are going to be in charge of everything down the road. And yes, you're right, the Zainabs and Austins of the world will be in charge. And I think the deal is that we need to put so many things in place now that are foundational. So when they are, they will shift from cool pilot project that we think is really neat to just doing what's normal and what's next. And that will accelerate things in a way that is more commensurate with the urgency that we have. We have 2030 goals, and it's not even gonna be that long before it is 2030, strangely enough, that we, on our projections, different measurements for our environmental goals will not meet unless we massively accelerate what we're doing, period. It's not even an ideological debate, it's numbers. And so I think that sense of urgency and speed and shifting and getting out of the mindset that old frameworks that would have said, well, we now have to debate how much money we can put to a solar panel as an extra on a public sector facility. That should not even be the conversation. It should be, it's almost like, okay, how much does it cost to put in modern plumbing so fresh water goes to our workers in that facility? It should be that level of conversation. And that's the shift that we're in now, but we're not quite there. And so to me, I would say that's a definite shortcoming. And if we weren't in this process of trying to overcome that shortcoming, a glaring failure. So I think we're transitioning from failure to shortcoming to what Austin and Zanab will be doing, which is what we should have been doing 50 years ago anyways. From cool to normal.
Austin, do you mind saying what you are up to?
Well, hi everyone, my name is Austin. I actually live at the Student Community Cooperative, the student housing for the University of Minnesota.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I love to like find out ways to spread this message and get it involved. And I think I look at this through the more communal living lens, because for almost the past 10 years of my life, I've lived in apartments and other communities or communal settings, I should say. And so that's kind of actually one of the questions I wanted to ask was, how does this model work for folks that don't pay their own electricity bill because they might live in an apartment building where rent includes electric, or maybe they live in a condo complex where their electric is paid for by their homeowners association fees. I'm curious to know if this model fits in somewhere there, or if there's other models that could work for those folks who live in situations like I do.
Well, that's a fantastic question. I'll answer to the degree that I have answers, and Jeff, if you can jump in if you have more. Right now, you cannot participate in a community solar garden unless you pay. Now, like your landlord could, but it has to be funneled through the person who pays the electric bill. So this is a problem, like, with public housing in Minneapolis. And that, to me, and Councilmember Reich and Jeff and anyone else, please jump in. That to me is a policy change and Excel change. So sometimes it's Excel doesn't, we have to push them to shift a policy. Sometimes it's the city, state, or federal. And they have to meet. And it's a fantastic question, and it's an equity question, and we will be looking for further answers on that.
Yeah, I hadn't even really, thought about that as a program option, but it could be, as we build out these arrays, something that we look at, because again, we're happy to work with whomever from a subscription basis, but you do need to be a ratepayer. So if the landlord is willing to work with us on behalf of the tenants or a group of tenants, I mean, that would be fine. There's some sort of under the covers issues with the rates between residents and businesses that I think could be something that we look at over time, because we are working on changes to the legislation that created community solar gardens this session. And I think it's going to be constant tinkering over the next couple of years as these residential gardens really start to roll out. So.
And the more we spread the word and the more community solar becomes a familiar term and concept, the more people will say, well, I want that. Just because I live in public housing, I want to be able to have a community garden or participate in a community solar garden. So I think it's a education and awareness piece as well. And then demanding that from our policymakers and utilities.
Yeah, I think that awareness will create broad demand, and broad demand will drive policy. I mean, it's just, in some respects, it's sometimes that simple in a very complicated field as energy production and governing policies. But it does also bring up this interesting thing, and I don't have an answer to this, but ownership, this notion of ownership. So if you have a cooperative housing, depending on its governance structure, technically everyone's an owner, not just a tenant. And so how does that play? And that can be one of those things where the legislation might be mute on that nuance. But those are the things that could be teased out in the interim before there might be other broader changes. There might be something already there that can be further illuminated where they actually do qualify by the letter of the law, if clarified in that manner. Very interesting subtopic. As Austin knows, you intersect anything with the cooperative ownership thing, and I'm going to get really excited real quick. So great question, and worth pursuing, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking my question, and thanks for the presentation. It was really informative.
Good. Anyone else have questions?
I have a technical question.
Sure.
So say you are an apartment dweller and you're doing a pay-as-you-go or, you know, an upfront subscription, and then you move out of state and it's a 25-year contract. What happens then?
Yeah, there are several options. You can, so the subscriptions are transferable. So you can transfer the subscription to another ratepayer. You can sell the subscription. We'll buy the subscription back from you. There's a fee schedule. It's a really nominal. There's a really nominal buyback charge. So the program is designed to be super flexible on that point because, you know, 25 years is it's a long time, and how many people are in the same place for 25 years these days? So we realize this, and we want to make it quite friendly to folks that are thinking that they're only going to be in an apartment or a house for a few years. But you can move your subscription from house to house as long as it's within the XL delivery area here in Hennepin County or an adjacent county. And again, we'll be working on the legislation on that score in order to broaden that area outside of just sort of the metro area. But at least for now, we're sort of metro focused.
Thank you, Jeff, for that. Any other questions? I know someone put in the, Deborah put in the chat, she wanted to share the presentation materials. And again, we're glad to share the presentation materials. We didn't put too much of the really deeper nitty gritty contract language, et cetera, in this presentation. It's out there, we have it. We just didn't want to, you know, people are at varying levels of familiarity and information that they want, so we have that. We're also glad to do presentations for your neighborhood group or just a group of, you know, neighbors or organization or whatever. So please reach out to me and we can put something together. And I'm just putting one more thing in the chat.
Yeah, and I'm very keen on reaching out. I know Audubon has Deb, she's here. And of course, there are people like Dean who's been involved in this just as a citizen that wanted to instigate some of these activities. There's others out there too. I will definitely be reaching out to both categories, both just citizens instigating on a topic that they're passionate about, and then neighborhood groups who represent geographic populations to just really push the invite to learn, ideally participate, But certainly know that the opportunity is there, that we should at least know that this is before us as a community. And so I'm going to be doing my part to instigate, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to adopt this as something they want to have happen in their backyard. And I think they will if they know, and we can get the word out. And then of course, rely on you folks to, when they have questions, actually be able to answer them. You know, at a certain point, the introduction and that we need to do it for a reason, people will want explanations. And again, I'm so thankful for Kyle and Jeff and company, because I like to have people in the room that know what they're talking about.
Absolutely.
I will say that the Wyndham Park neighborhood, the president of the Wyndham Park neighborhood reached out to the Ward 1 office because they are interested in getting involved as a neighborhood. So we passed on your contact information, Kyle.
Fantastic.
That's great. And I know Holland, and even though Beltrami's not in my ward, I work with them because of all the river related issues, or river neighborhood. Those two neighborhoods, when they got involved with CEE in terms of getting people to participate in home energy audits, that partnership with the neighborhood groups and CEE, there was a map when I was on the Clean Energy Partnership Board. There were 2 A students in the class. If the class were all the neighborhoods in the city, those 2 were the A students, and it was that a formal neighborhood association sponsorship that took it to another level of outreach. And it just so happens that those are the only 2 racially concentrated areas of poverty in the East Side, and yet they were the highest performers in educational environmental outreach. So I'm going to definitely lean on those 2 organizations to hopefully engage as well.
Mhm.
And then of course, you know, if Wade Park ever wants to do something, it'll do it well.
Yeah. And for people who just joined in the last few minutes, thank you, Amber. I can put the link to the presentation in the chat again. I'll put my email in the chat, and please reach out with any questions, or if you have any questions right now, or anyone else has questions. All right, and I know people on their phones can't see the chat sometimes. And so if you can't access the chat and you need info from me, you can just unmute yourself and ask. Any other questions? Thank you, Dean.
Can I suggest something?
Yes.
This group and some other groups who are working hard to make real, which means clean and renewable energy be true, okay? We don't have to give up. We need to engage others. We need to bring others to our side. And whatever we do today counts. So it is very important that we always be engaging others and work with others, and especially work with our peers, neighbors. That is so important, and let's do that, and we can make a difference. Thank you.
Well, and Girma, I want to thank you for I met Girma through, there are a bunch of organizations that are working on outreach on Excel's integrated resource plan. And there's actually a couple events coming up that I can put links to in the chat, but basically it's Excel's 15-year energy plan. And we get to comment on it, and we get to tell them what we think of it. So Girma has been at all the meetings about doing outreach on this integrated resource plan. And we really want to build a bigger kind of energy democracy coalition you know, in the region. And so I love the energy you bring to that, Girma. But it also, you know, this IRP really is a chance to shape our future, because Excel is doing okay on some of the aspects of the IRP, not so great on other aspects of the IRP. For instance, wanting to build a, you know, new natural gas plant in Becker, Minnesota. They're actually going after community solar in a really bad way in this IRP. And so we really need to do some outreach and let them know we want community solar owned by community members and organizations, not owned by Excel. And you know, we appreciate what Excel does do that is good, and we need to push them to do better. And I'm gonna drop the links to, and I know Girma's organization, all these organizations are really working hard to do outreach in all communities of Minneapolis right now around that, because they have to read every single comment and legally consider them in their decisions. This is the Public Utility Commission. So, yeah. If anyone else has more.
No, I think Girma really set us off on our course. I like that sense of direction. Well,
thank you.
If that is the exchange that we've had, I think it was very valuable to me. I'm glad people were able to come together. You know, these forums, of course, are not endpoints by any means. They're little starting points. The people who do participate are typically involved. I call them pollinators. They get the word out. They do their networking thing. I will definitely be leaning on our network of official neighborhood groups, given that what they can do when they do get involved. And yeah, I think we've got our marching orders to bring the community in, because if that doesn't happen, not only will we not be able to sort of make an authentic approach to this one project, we will miss the accelerator that will do the change at the higher policy levels. Because I do believe awareness and involvement at this local level is going to create great demand at the higher policy level. I just believe that. So I think we've started something here in a meaningful way, and I can't wait to pivot off a project to a whole new policy world around energy creation. So thank you for your local involvement. And thank you for our partners in Minneapolis Clean Energy.
Yeah. Well, and I just put the 2 IRP events in the chat, and certainly you can also follow Minneapolis Climate Action's Facebook page and check out our website. I just want to make sure, were there any last questions of any kind? And again, I'll put my email in the chat again. Please reach out with any questions. If you filled out the form, we'll be in touch. And again, really thank you for leading on this, Councilmember Reich. I mean, we've been at this conversation for a while, so we really appreciate your commitment to this and everyone who showed up tonight, because we know that, you know, you don't just show up here, you're showing up in other ways in your community. So this is what it takes. This is, like, to me, this is so inspiring. This is where it happens. So
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
yeah, you're welcome. All right. Well, if there are no further questions, we can be done. And we will be actually, Councilmember Reich will also be posting the recording, and I'll give him the presentation materials as well.
Super. All right. Well, let's launch this thing and engage community moving forward.
Woo! All right.
I know.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Bye. Thank you, Zainab.